Imagine walking into work the next morning and immediately seeing that the work was not finished. The quality was not where it needed to be. You know you need to speak to someone. Imagine walking into work the next morning and immediately seeing that the work was not finished. The quality was not where it needed to be. You know you need to speak to someone. But then the questions start. What if they become defensive? What if they do not realize there is a problem? And what if the conversation damages the relationship? Most managers do not struggle because they cannot recognize poor performance. They struggle because nobody has taught them how to have the conversation. One of the most useful mindset shifts I learned as a manager was this. This is not a difficult conversation. It is a conversation that needs to happen. When we label the conversation as difficult, we tend to delay it. We overthink it. We avoid it. Meanwhile, the performance problem continues. The rest of the team notices and frustration begins to build. Avoiding the conversation does not protect trust. Handled properly, the conversation can actually strengthen it. I learnt this through a real situation with an employee who was responsible for closing a department at night. When we arrived the next morning, it was clear that the required work had not been completed. The amount of work was below expectation, and the quality was not where it needed to be. My concern was not whether I could point out what was wrong. My concern was whether the employee actually realised they were underperforming. Did they understand the expectation? Were they aware of the gap? And were they ready to receive the feedback? When I saw the employee on their next shift, I did not begin by listing everything they had failed to do. I asked a simple question. How do you feel you went last night? They replied, yeah, good. That answer gave me important information. Their view of the shift was very different from mine. So I asked, would it be okay if I gave you some feedback? They agreed. I then explained what had not been completed, where the quality had fallen short, and which expectations had not been met. As the conversation continued, something became clear. The employee was not completely sure what the expectations actually were. That changed the conversation. The issue was not simply effort, it was also clarity. And this is an important leadership lesson. If the expectation is vague, accountability can become unfair. Before holding someone responsible for missing a standard, make sure the standard has been clearly explained. A useful performance conversation can be handled in 6 steps. First, ask for their perspective. Start with a question such as, how do you feel things went? This helps you understand their level of awareness before you make assumptions. Second, ask permission to give feedback. You might say, would it be okay if I shared what I observed? This creates a moment of preparation and makes the conversation feel less like an attack. Third, explain the gap using facts. Describe what happened, what was expected, and what was missing. Avoid exaggeration, labels, and assumptions about attitude. Fourth, explain the impact. For example, when this work is not completed, the next shift begins behind schedule, and the rest of the team has to carry the impact. People are more likely to respond where they understand why the standard matters. Fifth, clarify the expectation. Be specific about what good performance looks like next time. Do not assume the employee knows. Explain the outcome, the quality required, and the time frame. Finally, agree on support and follow-up. Ask, what would help you meet the standard next time? Then confirm the action, the support you will provide, and when you will review progress. One of the biggest mistakes managers make is turning performance feedback into a judgment about personality. Do not say, you are lazy, you do not care, or you always let the team down. Those statements create defensiveness because they attack the person. Talk about the behaviour, talk about the expectation, talk about the impact, and talk about what needs to change. Specific feedback gives the employee something they can act on. Personal criticism usually gives them something to defend. I have included these preparation questions and conversation steps in the free Poor Performance Conversation Planner linked below. You can use it to organise your facts, clarify the expectation, prepare your opening question, and plan the follow-up before the conversation takes place. Before your next performance conversation, remember this sequence. Ask for their perspective. Ask permission to provide feedback. Explain the gap with facts. Clarify why the standard matters. Confirm the expectation. Agree on support, action, and follow-up. And most importantly, enter the conversation with the intention to create clarity, not conflict. You can download the free Poor Performance Conversation Planner using the link below. It includes preparation prompts, conversation language, a follow-up plan, and an AI coaching prompt you can use to practice before the meeting. The biggest lesson I would give my younger manager self is this: stop treating the conversation as something to fear. This is not a difficult conversation. It is a conversation that needs to happen. Your responsibility is to make it fair, clear, respectful, and useful. That is how you create accountability without damaging trust. And if you want help giving constructive feedback without making someone defensive, continue with the next video on screen.